Hi guys, welcome back. It is episode 13 of Life After Prep. So today I'm just gonna lay it out there because at this point of my reverse, I am miserable for so many reasons. And I think this week I probably have definitely put on weight, but I've decided that it's kind of pointless for me to continue to track my weight. It is overall having far more negative implications than it is having positive ones for me being able to track my progress. So yeah, last week I kind of made the official decision to kind of stop my weigh-ins or my regular daily weigh-ins. I guess when I get through this final kind of period of building muscle, I'll get on the scale, I'll take a weight and we'll just see where we are. Like for me at the moment, knowing what my weight is, it's not going to give me any kind of additional positive reinforcements unless I'm actually going in and having like my lean body mass measured. In fact, normally what I do for people or clients that work with me and we're going through a gaining phase is we have their lean body mass measured rather than just kind of stepping on the scales, because that's just an arbitrary number. It's not actually giving us any specifics about, okay, what amount of that weight gain is new muscle mass and what amount of that is actually fat mass. And in fact, what it tends to do during a gain phase or during the tail end of a reverse diet is it just gives people a really, I guess, negative mindset, because there's the unknown, and the fear of the unknown is scary. So for me right now, because I'm not actively like pursuing my lean body mass measurements, which I could probably do that if I wanted to, but I'm not recording it for data collection anymore. So in the past, you would have seen me quite religiously going down to USF here in South Florida and having all of my body composition taken and then all of my anthropometrics. But we've kind of finished and wrapped up that case study and we're kind of working through all of the literature and data to get it published. So now that that's not happening, I don't necessarily need to go in. So for my own sanity, I have decided that it makes no point for me to have to get on the scale every day, because right now my focus is just taking one day at a time. So I'll train and my focus is, all right, you're uncomfortable in this body weight, but it's serving a purpose. So, you know, my goal, I talk about all the time, growing my quads, like that is legitimately where I'm at. So I guess rather than having to kind of think about the negativity of seeing the scale weight go up, I've just completely stopped. It's also interesting as my carbohydrate intake has increased. Last week we went to 210, I think. And this week I'm going to take another 10 gram increase just to continue like encouraging hypertrophy. How heavy and full like my body feels, not just from the sense of like my GI, because that is crazy. Like my stomach, it's such, and because I have done this transition quite quickly, I was going through a really conservative reverse diet at the beginning, and it was just really, I guess, psychologically taxing to do it that way. Whilst it might have better outcomes from a body composition standpoint, it was really impeding my mental health and my happiness. So that's kind of why I took the big increase, because it was too hard to restrain. So, but with that sudden increase, that increase in food volume, you know, the increased, like, I guess, bloated feeling because you've now got more food like transiting through, the increased, I guess, stored muscle glycogen has happened pretty quickly. I feel like just when I'm walking around, I have got a pump, like, and I am standing all day. So I also probably have a little bit of pooling of water, like in my legs and my calves and stuff like that. But I just feel so strange. It's like I've got this new body and I'm just like learning my, you know, my dimensions, and just like walking through doors. I'm like, oh, okay, I just better make sure I clear it. Like, it's really bizarre. So yeah, just walking around, doing day-to-day stuff, it feels uncomfortable, but I know it's not forever. In fact, I kind of had a little bit of a mental powwow this morning, and I'm going to stick at this for another 8 weeks. So if I had to guess, my weight right now is probably 70 kilos. I don't want to get on the scale. I don't care if it is, because this is just what it's requiring for me to get to my goal. Yeah, I think 8 weeks in at this kind of body weight, I will try to increase my calories a little bit more. I think if I can push to about 2,400, that would be kind of the most that I've ever been able to get to in an off season whilst kind of staying under 20% body fat. I could push my calories higher, but for me, like that would just tip me off the edge. I would just be really miserable at that body weight. I'm kind of right there now, but it's interesting, like every day that passes being at this weight, I kind of initially, I see myself and I'm like, oh God, like you let yourself go. But then the positive, reinforcer is a little bit more like, you need to be kind to yourself. Like you're still a very healthy person. Your body fat is still very normal for a female. You feel great at your training. Like you've got new found energy. Your performance has been good. And like I've been hitting PR after PR after PR in the gym. It's definitely become known because my body this week, I think it's just like, okay, Holly, you need to take a deload. You've been pushing it pretty hard for the last few weeks. So yeah, I've actually booked in, I've had treatment today and then I'll go again on Thursday. So yeah, I think the work that I'm doing, it's tough, not just physically from the training perspective, it's a lot of volume. And then there's the psychological component, like battling a body that you don't particularly care for. I'm trying to get better at caring for that body as much as I care for any other body that I'm in. I know that it's, it's healthy and normal. But I have really struggled with this. So something that I actually did last week, and I hope, gals, if you're out there and you have been in a similar spot, or maybe you are in that spot right now, you're not truly happy with your body composition, but you're working on something to get to your long-term goal, whether that's you're halfway through a fat loss phase and it's really hard and you're still not happy with where you're at progress-wise, or like me, perhaps you're going up and you've still got a lot of work to do ahead of you before you can decide to diet again. Just appreciate, I guess, the work that you've done and appreciate the fact that you're going to get there. It's not forever. So with the position you are right now, it doesn't have to be forever, and you are the person that's in control of that. So what I did this week was go out and grab some new clothing, because I was it happens to me every single time I go through a gaining phase. The last few weeks, I'm just kind of squeezing into a pair of clothes that I'm like, oh, these just fit, but they're not comfortable. So I went out and bought a new wardrobe. I went up a size. I was like, I put them on, things felt really good. I'm like, oh, okay, that actually it feels physically comfortable now. I can do the buttons up, do the zippers up, put my crop top on, and it's not cutting into my traps or sucking my stomach in. So that was so helpful. I can tell, I went out the next day. We did some social stuff with the kids out on the road, just had my regular clothes on. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. My clothes fit me. So it was instant mood change, just feeling a bit more confident in the clothing that I had to wear. So if I can give you any advice, if you are in this phase, get clothes that fit you and pick things that make you feel good. I had to go and do a little bit of reading to find out, okay, what clothing style will suit this body type, because I have quite a long torso and I'm also very broad. So there are certain things that just look silly on me, like frills, anything frilly. If you have big shoulders, it's whose children's clothing are you dressing up in? So yeah, I was like, okay, well, I better make a bit of an effort. I'll see if there's something that will look better. And yeah, I got some awesome clothing and I was really, really happy. So that was one thing. And I think just every time I had a negative thought about my weight, I'd just be like, okay, well, that this is really, you're in a great position calorie-wise, your training is really good and you're doing everything that you need to. So when you do diet down again in the future, you've got an appreciable amount more lean body mass to help create that symmetry. So yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people fall into the incorrect mindset is when they start resistance training, if they've never done it before, or maybe they've had time off and they're coming back to it, and they do have a normal amount of body fat, let's use 20% for argument's sake, and then they do start building muscle. I think the frustrating thing is when you do build muscle, you generally appear a little bit bigger because you are growing muscle. But that kind of deters a lot of people because it might mean that their clothes don't fit the same way because they're bigger. But I think you've got to remember that that's just temporary. You know, when you're going through this phase, we're not expecting fat loss. We're not expecting to get smaller. But when you do cut your calories and you go into that phase of dieting and being in a deficit, the body fat goes away and now you're left with that new appreciable amount of body mass. So yeah, I think I'm coming to terms with it, but it's just really like interesting, like feeling puffed out after just going for a walk or doing my client check-ins. I found myself, I like finished a video the other day and I was like, why am I puffing so much? Like I've just finished talking to someone. It is what it is, and I'm just honestly trying to stay focused. I have 8 weeks, I've put it in the calendar, counting down the weeks, but from here on in, like I'm going hard in the gym, like really pushing things. And obviously now that my volumes are higher, it also means I've got to make more time for stretching. So every morning before I do anything, while it's still dark, I get up and I do like 45 minutes of stretching, just because there is so much lower body, work in my program. So I'll do that. And I've also kind of increased the amount of, visits to my therapist. So I'm just getting a little bit more physical, manual, manipulation. So some massage, it just helps to kind of lengthen my muscles, because I don't have enough time to do the amount of stretching that probably should be done for that amount of training I do. So I just find it really helps to kind of keep me mobile and feeling good for my training sessions. And same with cupping. It doesn't have a lot of scientific research, unfortunately, about its actual benefit on either recovery or performance. But placebo is a powerful thing. And I can say that for somebody that has been very skeptical about all these types of things, after I have cupping, I always feel like I am definitely I feel very stretched. And I feel like the next day when I'm training, I'm no longer tight and I can put in a really good effort in the gym. So whether it's just that physical act of, stretching and pulling the fascia away from the bone, whatever the case, I like it and I'm motivated by it. So I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah. Anyway, on to my macros this week. So I think I'm going to be increasing by 10 grams of carbohydrates and 2 grams of fat. So that'll take me to 70 fats and 220 carbohydrate this week, holding steady on my protein. That'll stay at 150. So I'm just over 2100 calories. So I'm still a little ways off. And because I have taken such a quick increase, unfortunately, my metabolism hasn't been able to adapt in a way that has minimized weight regain because I've done it quickly. My metabolism is probably still down there. So I've put on a little bit of body fat. So it's not ideal, but I think it was the best decision for me for my psychological health, just for the time being. So yeah, that's the plan for this week. Okay, so last week I took my carbohydrates up to 210 and to 68. And if we go back just a couple of weeks ago, I was down at 1420 calories and 120 and 40. So like I said before, I would not be surprised if I'm sitting at 70 kilos at the moment, just because of how quickly I have increased my calories. And then obviously going into this period where we don't have access to all the equipment that we would normally use or classes, I just kind of called it and said, I'm going to stop my HIIT because I was doing still 45 minutes of HIIT training. So it's frustrating because I would have liked to have gone up more conservatively, but I feel like I was just hanging on to something that I didn't need to hang on to. And Wayne kind of said and agreed with me, it was like, if this is causing you so much like frustration on a daily basis, he's like, why are you trying to hang on to that physique when right now you actually wanted to work on growth? So I was like, okay, well, YOLO. Not really, but Yeah, I think I'm probably sitting just on 70 kilos. If I had to guess, I haven't seen this body in a little while, but I know it's going to look pretty damn good when I finish. So anyways, 210 last week, up to 220 this week, and 70 fats. If you have a look at my intakes over the last few days, I generally am pretty good with my fats. In fact, it's hard for me normally, unless I deliberately choose something that is high in fat. I won't get to my fat target. So yeah, this one day is a bit of a crazy day. So I made some really awesome cookies. I guess you guys might have heard of like Fat and Weird cookie and PDX. They do like the cut in half of the cookie, and then they open it up and there's all the good stuff. So I made a few of those. So I think that was at the end of the day, and I had already eaten my daily targets. And these things are dense. And Lane and I tried or sampled like 3 different flavors, not full cookies, but a bit of each. And just, they're dense. So it was pretty easy to go up to those kind of carbohydrates and fats, just like cutting away a quarter of a few different ones. So yeah, did that. Kind of thought about the consequences tomorrow, and I was like, well, I've got a big day of training tomorrow. Why worry about it? Let's just go hard. So yes, I'm quite above my targets there on Wednesday. We kind of pulled it back in over the next couple of days to kind of make up for some of that, which wasn't really that difficult, to be honest. I was so, like, food didn't even enter my mind, I think, on Thursday and Friday. I really had to force the calories in on Thursday and Friday. I was like, time out, you need to stop. So, yeah, it's crazy how your hormones actually really try to regulate your dietary intake. So it honestly takes a lot of strong behaviors to force, or strong habits to force somebody to kind of eat past that. So I was just being really mindful of how my appetite was, and I was not hungry on this day at all. So there you go. Overall, I think I came in a little bit over my compliance, and essentially what I've done this week is just taken my calories up to what I consumed last week. And I'll probably maintain my weight pretty steadily this week, provided I keep my fibre intakes steady. Again, looking at my fibre intakes, I think this past week I have seen so many variables change, and I'm just looking at my dietary fibre intakes last week. Yeah, I know exactly why. I can see 14 grams of fibre on Friday, the day that I wasn't feeling hungry at all. And then up to 33. That's not a crazy, I have seen much worse, but that definitely would result in like a 1 or 2 kilo weight drop or a change just from something like that. And of course, if you were also just looking at your sodium intakes, that's also going to have a significant impact in what your actual body looks like, and also how the scale responds. And particularly after this day here on Wednesday, when I had 430 carbs, Thursday morning when I got up to go from my walk, I was like, I feel like my legs are about to pop. Like, there's so much glycogen, so much water. It's like my skin was like hard to the touch. So yeah, that was not a fun day. So yeah, I have no desire to ever have to eat that much on a regular basis because of how it makes you feel. But anyway, goals. You've got to do these things sometimes. So yeah, this week I've just actually written a new program for myself. So it's a new 5-day training program. I have 4 lower body sessions, 1 upper. So that's kind of a replica of my last 6-week training block. But I've just changed around the exercises. I've moved around my compound lifts a little bit. So I'm actually going to be including a 1 rep max for my squat, just because I really want to see what I can do at the moment. But it's in a pyramid fashion. So I can still work at the hypertrophy rep ranges, which is what we need to build muscle. But also I still really enjoy the strength component. And there is some carryover, if you're very strong, you're probably going to be able to lift more, and lifting more over time is going to create bigger muscles. So they kind of work together. So I've just changed around the rep ranges a little bit with my bigger compound movements, and just changed around the diversity so that I'm not missing any small muscle groups. So yeah, I don't particularly enjoy this right now. I think people just kind of go, oh yeah, all those pros, yeah, they've just got it so good and they look skinny and lean all the time. No, they don't. Some might, but I probably could guess they don't really have a very strong interest in food or socializing. It might just be that that's their lifestyle, and that's fine. I'm definitely somebody that really loves, socializing and enjoying food in the company of friends and people that I care about. It's kind of like my love language. Like if I can feed everybody and everyone's really happy, like that's just me. I probably should have been Italian, but I'm not. So anyway, that is that. I'm pretty pumped for this next 8-week period of growing. Yeah, it's always interesting to see what I can do in that kind of time frame. I know Lane hates me because he's always like, it took me 10 years to grow my quads, and you go in and do something amazing in 8 weeks. But I think I would say I work pretty hard and I train sensibly and I do listen to my body, and I'm not afraid to get a little softer in my off season in order to achieve that. Didn't say I like it, but I'm willing to do it. So yeah. Okay guys, well thank you so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed to my channel, please do. Stick around. Next week we're going to be putting up a video from my Bahamas World Championship, so for the WBFF Worlds in 2019. We realized that we didn't have any of that on YouTube. So we've got a really cool vlog video coming for you, so you can see my entire kind of peak week leading into the Bahamas. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I think I'll post that on Saturday. So stay tuned for that. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about any of the nutrition topics that we cover, I would highly recommend checking out our books. You can find those at the BioLane store, which is literally biolanestore.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.